After 4 weeks of football, you know where your team stands and you know what types of trades you need to make. We're here to make those decisions a little bit easier with 8 different players that we're going to discuss on today's episode. And we're going to shake it up a little bit today from what we've done for our past couple trade target videos. And we're going to still start with a buy and a sell each. However, instead of doing a second buy and a second sell, we're going to play a little buy, sell, hold with 4 players that we know you're wrestling with what to do. So these are 5 high-profile names. I'll spoil one. Jamar Chase, I think, is going to be a very fun conversation that we're going to have later on. That'll be after the break. But Ty, you're starting us off with Achane as a buy. And I got to say, you've been on a little heater going with some bigger name running backs as buys, and they've continued to work out. So why should we be buying in on Achane?
Well, because Achane is, 1, really good at the football, and 2, he has a huge opportunity now in front of him because Tyreek Hill is out for the year. There's no way that you saw the injury that he sustained and can tell yourself he's going to be back in no time. Yeah, that's not happening. So I'm continuing the trend of these kind of big name running back ones before the price jumps up even more, because again, the argument I've made in the past, I'll make again. Rarely are there opportunities or where a window is still slightly open to go get one of these game-changing, fantasy-changing, season-altering running backs for your fantasy team, and Achane is the next one on this list. Let me just give you some names, because you don't need to tell me, you don't need me to tell you how good Achane is at football. You would like to know what kind of names I would give up to go get Achane right now. I would give up Ashton Genty. I would give up Bucky Irving, who I just said to go buy. I would give Bucky to go get Achane. I would give up Amarian Hampton to go get Achane. I would even give Josh Jacobs, who was the original running back 1 buy candidate that I threw out there. And I think if you're even able to swing a package with the likes of Javonte Williams, Travis Etienne, Quinshon Judkins, obviously that package is going to be a little bit more on the heavier side to go get a Achane, but I think it's worth it because, again, the opportunity that we now have in front of us is a guy who can legitimately finish the year as a top 3 running back at the position. And right now, as the running back 8, not saying that he's underperforming or overperforming or anything like that, but there's bigger fantasy games in store for Achane, and I think it's just worth paying the price, whatever it is. You're not getting 80 cents. You're not even getting 95 cents on the dollar. I don't care. For a guy that can finish top 3 at the position, I think it's a price worth paying.
Yeah, we're not talking about Saquon on this video, but I talked about him in a TikTok I just put out of some buy candidates. And for me, it's the same argument. They've been good this season, but they haven't been great. And they're guys that we think are going to be great. Achane, like you said, Tyreek out. This target share might absolutely skyrocket for Achane. He's averaging over 5 yards carry in 3 of his first 4 games. He's a guy who's going to find the end zone. Obviously, Ollie Gordon's taking a couple of those goal line snaps, but that's not where Achane shines anyway. So you're not overly concerned there. I couldn't agree more. He's a guy. Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey, Bijan, probably the only guys that wouldn't trade for right now for Achane. But I think he's going to be in that conversation come end of the year. So I couldn't agree more. Before we get to my buy, we want to just continue to offer up the fellowship as something you should join. I got to quit using the fellowship, but I love it so much.
It works too well. That's the problem. It works too well.
It's so cheesy though. So we are coming out with 3 podcasts a week. We have our trending or endings on Tuesdays, trade targets Wednesdays, and then starts and sits on Thursdays. And hopefully it's helping you get to a 4-0, 3-1 record to start off the season. But we want to just continue to encourage you to hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications so you don't miss any content at all. My player, I think, is going to end up being one guy we're going to talk about in the same realm as Achane. Maybe not quite this year, but I think he's an excellent player, and that is Tetaroia McMillian. And Ty, this dude, everything screams he's playing really well, other than he's wide receiver 30 right now in fantasy points. He's 12th in receiving yards, 5th in targets, 16th in air yard share, 6th in team yardage share. He just doesn't have any touchdowns. And I think when you look at it, and I'm going to compare him to, I'll say it. I'm going to spoil it. I'm going to compare him to a guy we're going to talk about a little bit later, but Emeka Egbuka. Sorry, Ty, I'm stealing your thunder a little bit. But Emeka has 31 targets to Tet's 35. Emeka has 18 receptions. Tet also has 18. Emeka has 282 yards. Tet has 278. The difference is Emeka has 4 touchdowns. And we're talking about Emeka as this top 12, 15 player. And Tet, it feels like, oh, yeah, I guess he could be that, but he's been disappointing. It's just we're waiting for the touchdowns to come. He's an extremely talented wide receiver who, like I said, is 5th in targets. So the volume's going to stay. If anything, it's just going to get better. I'm betting on the talented Tet and the coaching of Dave Canales to continue to get him the ball. And as him and Bryce Young continue to work more, I think these touchdowns, I think the catch rate is going to continue to come. Also, they're going to be behind a lot. So it's not like they're going to stop throwing, right? Because his targets per route run isn't amazing. His yards per route run isn't amazing. His target share is, only 22nd. But they're just going to throw the ball so much that all of his receiving yards, targets, air yard share is going to stay very high.
I love Tet McMillian as a buy if you are a championship roster right now. If you're 4-0 and 3-1, you likely have the resources to go spend and buy a guy like Tetaroia McMillian. Let him sit on your bench while the growing pains of Carolina continue to happen, because we can go from a 30-0 win against Atlanta to then getting smoked and run out of the building 42-13 by New England, right? So if you are a championship team, if you're a contending team, Tetaroia McMillian is the perfect target for you, because again, you can let him sit and the growing pains can continue to happen. And then you benefit from the second half, I will say, emergence of Tet McMillian, because at about halfway through the year, I shouldn't say every rookie, but most rookies with these high draft capital like Tet McMillian, they eventually emerge as fantasy relevant pieces. And not to say that he hasn't been already, but you will see touchdowns start to happen. The volume may take, a jump up as well, just because we're not going to necessarily going to be needing to force the ball to Tommy Tremble and JT Sanders and Hunter Renfrow when he's on the field, and Jalen Coker, which, the cokeheads will go crazy over that one. But and Xavier Leggetti is just a non-factor. I know he's been hurt, but I don't expect him to be a factor at all. Like, Tet McMillian is in prime position to be a second half of the year league winner. So again, if you are a championship contending team right now, Tet is the number one target in my book.
100%. And Ty, I think people are going to come after you because you just said, hey, let's bet on these rookies second half. And now you're going to turn around on the other side of your mouth. And you're going to join me on this trip of selling Emeka Egbuka. And I don't know, I got burned already by it. So I don't know if I have the stones come back and say, and join you on it. So why don't you convince me a little bit here? Why is Emeka Egbuka?
Who said that you should sell Emeka Egbuka? Not us. No, it couldn't be us. Yeah, so I at least had the patience to say that, let's let Emeka Egbuka have some run at the beginning of the year. And I think it's kind of, I don't want to say it's fortunate, but he's found himself in a very good position with Mike Evans out from injury, that we can maybe expect a couple more games where Emeka is kind of heavily featured. Because my concern is that when Mike Evans comes back and then we fully have Chris Godwin, Evans, and Egbuka, this offense isn't going to be as willing or as I'm blanking on words. You get the point, though. Once Mike Evans comes back, this gets really messy. Chris Godwin was a full-time player in his first game back. There was no ramp up. He was fully playing with 10 targets in that game, and Emeka got 10 targets as well. But let's also just remember That touchdown play was an incredible play. There was some luck involved with that. I'm just saying. I just had to state the obvious. And when you look at how Tampa lined up Godwin and Egbuka this week, they put Emeka Egbuka in the Mike Evans role, which is kind of surprising. But Chris Godwin was also on the outside. So when all three are playing, it's going to be the grand question of like, who's going to take the slot? Where are they all going to line up? And do we have enough of the ball to share evenly amongst the three receivers in the run game as well? I think for me, I would rather get out now while there is still a semi-clear role for Emeka Egbuka, and especially off of the back of another great performance. He has the name value right now because he is such a hot commodity that you can still get a top price for him. And maybe the cherry on top, he's being utilized as a low end wide receiver 2 right now, and he's way overperforming that right now because he's a top 10 receiver on a per game basis. So it's not that we don't think Emeka is a bad player. We don't think that the bad games will suddenly hit. He will still have some good games, but I just don't want the question mark and I don't want the inevitable dip in the ceiling and a dip maybe even in the floor then as well on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah, I think we talk about him. He's a guy I would trade to go get Tet Plus right now because, like you said, Godwin coming back playing full-time was huge. I think he's still going to score touchdowns, but I do just want to point out 62% of his points have come from 4 plays this year. His 4 touchdown plays, which is right. That's an excessive amount. That's why, like you said, he has low end wide receiver 2 usage, but is performing as a top 10 player. And I do think he's in an offense where he will probably outperform his expected fantasy points each week because Baker still looks really good. They're moving the ball well. I'm just, like you said, the name we've just blown up so much that, yeah, if I can go sell and get a Garrett Wilson, if I can sell, and get one of these other top end wide receivers, if I can tier up to get a Justin Jefferson, something like that. JSN 100%, where it's just, we've gotten to the point where he is really at the tippy top. And it just, for both of us, I'm not saying he falls off a cliff. I'm not even saying he's outside the top 20 wide receivers by the end of the year. I just think that it's going to come down to earth a little bit when you have both Godwin, who, like you said, full-time player right off the bat, and Mike Evans back, who both have great chemistry with Baker Mayfield, right? It's not like there's 2 wide receivers who are good and we'll see how it goes. Like these guys showed last year, they both have really good chemistry with Baker Mayfield. So you're going to really have 3 guys who can go any way. And then you add in Bucky Irving on top of that, who has shown, obviously he is a little bit banged up, but when he's healthy, this guy who can take over a game from the backfield. So it's just a lot of mouths to feed in Tampa, and that's really what it comes down to for a guy who's just really at the peak of his value that's going to be for this year. My guy hurts a little bit as some Vikings fans, and it's Jordan Addison, and came out right again. We talked about a little bit of a lucky play with Emeka Egbuka. I think we can say it little lucky and unlucky for Jordan Addison on his play. The fact that he got caught by Peyton Wilson, but the fact that he was just open for that play in general at the end of the game to really give him, instead of 3 catches for 40 yards, it was 4 catches for 101 yards. And what it comes down to for me is I just don't trust him from a consistency standpoint because of the quarterback position right now. Justin Jefferson is the only guy I truly trust in this offense week in and week out. Probably maybe Jordan Mason, but even when Aaron Jones comes back, it gets a little, iffy. Offensive line completely banged up. Got a bye week coming up in 2 weeks, in 2 weeks. I just want to get out while I still can on Jordan Addison. Go get a guy who's underperforming a little bit. Because if I look at last year, he was already a little bit inconsistent. Had as many finishes outside the top 40 as he did inside the top 40. And that was with a quarterback who had 4,500 passing yards and 35 passing touchdowns. JJ McCarthy and Carson Wentz just aren't going to do that again this season. There's going to be growing pains. You knew that coming into the year. You have a good performance week 1. I think, hey, let's just move on. And we talked about Emeka Egbuka getting a lot of his points from touchdowns. Jordan Addison right now has 19 career touchdowns. 33% of his fantasy points come from those 19 touchdowns. I mean, that's a lot for a guy. I just don't see the Vikings throwing that many touchdowns. That's what it is. Right now, I think the Vikings are on pace. They have 6 touchdowns in 4 games, so they're on pace for 23 passing touchdowns. I don't see him as a double-digit passing touchdown guy when you have or Justin Jefferson on the team. So that's what it comes down to me. I just don't want to trust the consistency, and that it just gets that much better for Jordan Addison.
You said it, and it's really been, it was the concern even in the offseason, even when we knew the suspension. People are like, well, when Jordan Addison comes back, like, he's in the Vikings offense. The problem is he has been the red zone guy. Like you mentioned, 19 touchdowns through 2 seasons so far. But now that you have a run game, you have Justin Jefferson, of course, but TJ Hawkinson's back in the fold now. There isn't a as much of a reliance on Jordan Addison to be a red zone guy as years past. So if people are still willing to buy in and they do think that Jordan Addison is the Jordan Addison of old, obviously it's going to be tough to sell because, again, right now it's Carson Wentz at quarterback, and then it's JJ McCarthy. It's not Sam Darnold or Kirk Cousins. But if you know somebody, just go get what you can right now. I don't know if we can exactly say you're going to get the right return for Jordan Addison because it's 1 game back after a suspension. But I'm of the viewpoint of just go get what you can right now. Because if you're expecting Jordan Addison to be a contributor to your fantasy team, I think there's so much risk with that it outweighs whatever kind of upside you can get with Addison, obviously, because of, again, the situation in Minnesota with, I'll say, suspect quarterback play, Jefferson, Hawkinson, and now the run game as well.
I'll give you 3 names quick that I would go try and target: Jalen Waddle, Chris Olave, Jacoby Myers.
Oh, dude, if you can get Chris Olave out for Addison, that's an instant 100% accept.
Right. 3 guys where people are like, kind of gross situations, but they're going to be, I feel, more consistent performers in their situation than I think Jordan Addison will be. All right, we're going to take a quick break before we transition to our buy, sell, hold game and hear from our friends over at Underdog Fantasy.
Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Underdog, where you can get into the game this season playing Pick'em. It's extremely simple. Just pick higher or lower on 2 or more of your favorite players. For example, I'll pick the highers on Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and Xavier Worthy. If I played $10 and got all 3 of them right, I would win $60 just by watching football. And that's the beauty of Pick'em. You can track your picks and your wins while you enjoy the game. Now, if you're not on Underdog yet, scan the QR code on your screen or use our code FELLAS when you sign up, because new customers will get $50 in bonus funds when you play your first $5 on the app. Plus, Underdog will give you a free pick to use in your first entry. Again, that's code FELLAS over on Underdog. Now let's get you back to the rest of the show.
So now we're going to change speeds a little bit. We're not going to talk about necessarily buy sells, but we're going to discuss whether you should be buying, selling, or holding on a player. We're going to start with Jamar Chase. And Ty, can you believe we're at the point 4 weeks in where we even have to have a discussion on Jamar Chase? It didn't feel like at the beginning of the year that, hey, this is the most bulletproof wide receiver 1. He can't fall into the same trap that we've had with the last wide receiver ones where he's going to fall off. And yet here we are, week 4. Jamar Chase is the wide receiver 21. And the reason we're going to have this discussion is because Field Yates put out a tweet, which was really eye-opening. In 9 games with Jake Browning, Jamar Chase has finished wide receiver 40, 33, 6, 57, 34, 54, 57, 3rd, 41st, and 61st. That's not good. That is not what we want to see in this season already. He has 3 games with 5 or less receptions and 50 or less yards and no touchdowns. He had 1 such game all of last year, and he's already got 3. So, Ty, the people want to know, Are you buying Jamar? Are you trying to sell Jamar, or do you think he's a hold right now?
I think he's a sell, but I feel like you're gonna have to hold because no one's gonna give you even remotely close to anything worthwhile. If you can sell him just on name value alone, because that's really the only thing he carries with him right now, then go for it. It stinks that Cincinnati's bye week is in week 10, like we talked about with Travion in yesterday's episode, where it's like an early bye week would help out his situation and his outlook, I think it would help out with Jamar Chase, because I'm probably oversimplifying this when I say what I'm about to say. It feels like they have tried to use Cincinnati has tried to use Jake Browning as Joe Burrow. They have not done a whole lot of change to their offense to kind of cater to Jake Browning. And because of that, the offense is suffering. And you add in on top of it, the defense is just pretty much non-existent right now. Its vibes are way down in Cincinnati. So maybe you're going to hope for a game, right? Like you said with the Field Yates tweet, he has had 2 top 10 finishes with Jake Browning. You need probably one of those games to get something worthwhile in return. And again, like I said, if you can get a decent return based off of name value alone, I would go do it right now.
So I might surprise you here, Ty. I'm gonna say I think Jamar Chase is a buy. I really do, because I don't think anybody's selling him towards the top of his value, and I am buying Jamar Chase if I'm a championship contender. If I'm a guy who needs points now and is taking a big swing, maybe that's the type of team too. Like if you're 0-4 and I need something and I have nothing to give, maybe I can get the team that has Jamar Chase and hopefully he pans out. But for me, if I'm a championship contender, I'm looking at weeks 12 through 17. And I'm seeing we play Miami. We play Baltimore twice. In Buffalo is going to be tough. But then New England and Arizona. I'm looking at that and going, ooh, those are some teams I think I can throw on there. Those are some teams I think we might be able to figure it out down the line. So that's why I said I think it's specific teams. If you're 1-3, I don't think I'm going to buy Jamar Chase, because like you said, Detroit, Green Bay, Pittsburgh, Jets, Chicago, I'm not exactly excited about playing any of those defenses. I'm not excited about having to watch this offensive line who let a 3-man rush get 2 guys to Jake Browning last night, like in 3 seconds. Like, I'm not excited about watching them and try to stand up. But I also think this team just paid Jamar Chase a lot of money. If Zach Taylor wants to continue his job, he's going to figure out, hey, let's figure out how to get him the ball. So I'm betting on the talented Jamar Chase and that the schedule gets better down the stretch. But I do understand it is a risky buy, because it could be you're paying a lot for a guy who's finishing outside the top 50% of the time.
So let's do a gross name game. All right.
Oof.
Players that you would give to go get Jamar Chase. Khalil Shakir.
Oh, easily.
How about Quentin Johnston?
I think I'd give QJ. Yeah.
And last but not least, would you give Cortland Sutton for Jamar Chase?
Sutton. Yeah. I'd give Cortland Sutton. I think I'd give Emeka for Jamar Chase.
Oh, get out of here. Jeez. You want Lucas to get mad in the chat. He's going to hear that and he's going to message us going, "What are you guys talking about? I don't want that associated with me." That's wild, man. I said Emeka was a sell, but I
think it's still Jamar Chase. That's where I'm at with it. As I understand, it's been.
Do we need to read the tweet again, though?
No, I understand it's been rough, but I'm betting on Jamar Chase here, and I'm gonna bet on Jamar Chase.
Oh man,
I think they have to throw the ball. Like this defense, you want to talk about the worst defense in the NFL? Bengals got it. I mean, Ryan Clark doesn't have a lot of good takes, but he did just say that the Bengals look like Bishop Sycamore. And I think he might be right, because they can't do anything on defense right now. So I think they're going to throw it. If you're going to throw it, has to go to Jamar Chase.
Well, isn't that what's been happening the past 2 weeks?
It's been bad, but you've also played Minnesota and Denver. In Minnesota and in Denver.
Okay. Comments, you can sort this one out. Yes. I understand buying, but it's a contingent buy. Like there are only certain teams that would be willing to go get Jamar Chase. I hope I'm speaking for you correctly when I say this. We're not saying every single team should go buy Jamar Chase right now.
No, I don't think so either.
Okay, good.
All right, now let's move on to Nico Collins, another guy. This one pains me to have to talk about, but Nico Collins is here. He's only got one game so far this year with over 4 receptions. He does have 2 touchdowns at least, so that's bailed him out in that Tampa Bay game. But this O-line has not been great. They are giving up the 4th worst average time to sack currently. They're bottom 10 in about every sack category that you can be in. And I think what's been most disappointing is Nick Caley is not who we thought he was going to be. We were hoping for this McVay tree, the next O'Connell, right? Maybe not that great, but at least the guy is going to move their best wide receiver around, get him open, design plays, and we haven't seen that. And so now we're sitting here with a guy who 1 spot ahead of Jamar Chase. What do we do with him, Ty? What is Nico Collins a buy? Is he a sell, or is he a hold?
The heart says hold, but the head says to sell, and specifically to tear up. Because you've got decent enough games. I'm not saying that they've looked pretty, but you look at box score and you go, oh, those are some decent games. And there's name value associated here that I don't want the headache, like you said, of Nick Caley. I don't want the headache of like, will Houston ever figure it out? Will the offensive line play improve? Like, I don't want that headache the rest of the year. And when the floor is as low as it has been, and we haven't seen that floor the past year or two, there's so much risk that it doesn't pay off for you if you do hold and you're trying to compete for a championship, which you should be doing. If you're not, then what's the point of playing fantasy? Again, like I said, the heart, because I love Nico the player. Nico has been an absolute stud the last year and a half, but it's just not smart to hold him right now. And so I again, like I said, I'm looking at him as I'm going to sell and try to upgrade. It's in a package. You're not going to do a 1-for-1 Nico Collins for Garrett Wilson right now. And if you can, sweet. But here's like, if I can galaxy brain, if we knew that CeeDee Lamb was coming back, not this upcoming week, but the week after, I'm going to go sell Nico Collins to go get CeeDee Lamb because I trust CeeDee Lamb's outlook the rest of the year over Nico Collins.
I don't hate that. I do want to ask you. So I'm gonna give you 5 options. I want you to pick. Does Nico Collins finish as A, wide receiver 5, B, wide receiver 10, C, wide receiver 15, D, wide receiver 20, or E, wide receiver 25? If you had to pick one, if you're predicting the future, where do you think he finishes?
I think the ceiling is that kind of high-end wide receiver 2, so that like wide receiver 15 spot. I'm going to expect somewhere closer to wide receiver 20.
Ooh, interesting. So I am still bullish on Nico. I still am holding the faith on Nico. I think he's going to finish closer to B, wide receiver 10. So for me, again, I am buying in and I am saying I'm going to swing for the fences. And I think anybody can swing for the fences on Nico Collins because I think he's that talented. I think him and CJ Stroud are going to be good enough that they're going to be able to move the ball and figure this out a little bit more. I'm giving them time to adjust to the new offensive coordinator. So yeah, I think personally Nico Collins is a buy. I think he's going to be a top 10 wide receiver. I would go pay up for Nico Collins right now. I understand that it's scary. I do. I really understand that it's very scary, especially if you've watched the games. It's not overly pretty, but I think Nico Collins is a supremely talented wide receiver who's going to get the job done. So I have him as a buy.
Oh, you look at you brought up the fantasy playoffs with Jamar, and you do that for Nico. Buffalo week 12, Indy week 13, Kansas City week 14, Arizona week 15, Vegas in week 16, Chargers in week 17. So, man, gosh, maybe I'm being swayed more to. Oh, gosh. I think give it a couple more weeks. It doesn't help that
you sound like a hold. You sound like you are.
Again, like I said, the heart is saying hold, but
yeah,
like Baltimore this week and then a bye week in week 6.
Yeah,
I think Nico Collins has a chance of being a buy candidate for one of us after week 7. Like we see Houston come out of the bye and we see some things have changed and that Nico Collins is going to walk away with like 9, 10, 11 targets a game because that's all that they can do right now, then it changes my opinion. But right now, I think it's it's always better to be smart than to follow your fandom of certain players.
For sure. Our next player, there's a lot of people.
We can continue.
I'll just let you dive in. I'll let you take it. Why sell on Marvin Harrison Jr.?
I wonder why. Look, we're gonna have some games like we saw in week 1 against New Orleans, some games like we saw against Seattle. I'm expecting more of that inconsistency. That's ultimately why I can't say that Marv is a buy right now, because I think the inconsistencies continue. Doesn't help now that you don't have James Conner, that I'm assuming the run game is going to take a hit here with Trey Benson. Not saying I know you like yourself some Trey Benson, go Knowles, but I'm not expecting. Sure, you can make the argument. There's a natural argument. Well, if the run game isn't the same, aren't they going to need to rely on the passing game? Sure. But the problem is that Marv still isn't the guy in the passing game. It's Trey McBride. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to say you're selling yourself on the hope that he becomes, the top target in this offense, but I add that in with inconsistencies that I think will continue to happen because he is in this kind of second fiddle role to Trey McBride. You take this big game that he just had against Seattle and you go, oh, wait, look, things are different. Things can be different here in Arizona. Look, like maybe Marvin Harrison isn't really that bad, and just go, you know what? Maybe I want something. I want a more sure thing right now.
Yeah, I unfortunately think I agree with you. I think he's a sell. I think, it's nice getting to see him play Tennessee. Maybe that helps. But I think that's probably more of a reason to say, hey, let's sell him now. I think the inconsistencies are here to stay. Kyler currently is the second lowest ADOT, behind only Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers has an ADOT of 4.3 yards right now, which is insane. Like Kyler's the second lowest at 6.2. So that should tell you all you need to know. He is ninth lowest in deep throw percentage. Only Jalen Hurts, Cam Ward, Justin Fields, and Jake Browning have less passing yards per game than Kyler Murray does right now. And if you want to compare him to last year, so last season he finished wide receiver 20 in targets. He's currently wide receiver 27. He finished wide receiver 37 in receptions. He's currently wide receiver 33. He was wide receiver 30 in yards. He is currently wide receiver 30 this year. He had a touchdown every other game last year. He is on pace to have a touchdown every other game this season. He's wide receiver 26 right now. He's wide receiver 29 last year. It just feels like we're watching the same thing over again, where you're going, this should be different, and it's not. And I think I'm finally moving on. I'm over Kyler. I'm over this Cardinals. I'm over believing in everything that's not Trey Benson and Trey McBride right now. So if your name isn't Trey, I don't care about you on the Cardinals. So I am going to sell here, and I am going to agree with you. And Ty, let's move on from this disappointment of wow, that was really rude.
That was really harsh.
I don't think like Marv's a disappointment. Marv is not a disappointment. I still think there's time for Marv. In fact, I'm sending out trades for Marv in Dynasty currently. So maybe for Dynasty you can consider him a buy. But I just think as far as the season, any hope you had, it just feels like it's gone. Kenneth Walker, I know he's got a little spot in your heart. Ty, he's 18th in attempts, but he's 8th over the last 2 games. He only has 6 receptions on the season. Charbonnet has 100% of carries when he's been healthy inside the 5-yard line. However, Kenneth Walker's 4th in explosive run rate of running backs with over 25 carries. So Ty, where do you stand on Kenneth Walker? What are we doing with Kenneth Walker?
I want to cry.
Oh.
Man, like why can't we have nice things? Like why do we? That's what I'm saying when it comes to Ken Walker's. Why do we? I know Zach Charbonnet is a really good player, but why do we got to make it work with both of them? This is just me. This is probably why I don't have a coaching position in the NFL, among many other things. But like, I just think Ken Walker is so much better than Zach Charbonnet. And for whatever reason, they want to split. And like you said, what's ultimately going to make the difference for Ken Walker the rest of the year and Zach Charbonnet is who's going to be getting the goal line stuff. Because right now, there's not a ton of receiving work going between the two of them. And if there is receiving work that is to be had, my bet would be on Zach Charbonnet, because he's been the guy that's been getting at least like the 2-minute stuff. And that's where you're more likely to throw the ball. So again, like I said, for Ken Walker, you're banking on touchdowns. And when those opportunities are going to Zach Charbonnet, you do need big plays. And we have been getting those. We've got a 20-yard run. We've got a 21-yard run. But that's about it. So I hate to be the Debbie Downer and say that every single guy that we've talked about in this buy, sell, hold thing is a sell, but I'm going to sell when vibes are high on Ken Walker right now, because I just don't know if this is completely sustainable. Yes, it was great to see him get 19 carries this past game, and Zach Charbonnet had what, 11, 12? Maybe I'm wrong in that, but I'm concerned that we're not going to be getting enough of the high value touches right now in the Seattle backfield. And while we are getting efficient gains still, you should take advantage and tier up with Ken Walker right now.
I 100% agree. And it really comes down to he's playing in like almost the Nick Chubb, Derrick Henry role of, right, he's just not getting the receiving work, but he's can be an explosive back who gets carries. However, unlike those guys, he doesn't get the goal line work. So you don't get the payoff. You don't get the 6-point bumps most weeks when Zach Charbonnet is healthy. So that's what's concerning. And that's where we can see games like in Arizona. 19 carries, 81 yards, another 29 yards through the air, and 11.5 half PPR points, 12 PPR fantasy point. Right? That's not great for what should have been a pretty decent night. So I understand you look at New Orleans, he had 2 touchdowns. Pitt, he had 1. New Orleans, Zach Charbonnet isn't playing that game. That's where all of his inside the 5 touches come from. So that's what's concerning. That's why I'm 100% with you. I think he's a sell. He's a fun player to watch. He's a good NFL back. But I think situation dictates sell.
Well, right. Well, and that's the thing, is that like when he gets the ball in his hands, he's absolute dynamite. But for whatever reason, I get that you have a talent in Zach Charbonnet, but it's like, do we really need to deprive both of them? Can't we make it work like an Aaron Jones, Jordan Mason situation in Minnesota? Why do we have to split it out so evenly? It would be a different story if Ken Walker was splitting the carries inside the 5 with Zach Charbonnet.
No.
But that's not the case right now. So, we talked about how much of an improvement Kubiak will be for the Seattle offense in terms of the run game, because last year there was absolutely no run game. But like, this is not the way that it should have played out in my book. And again, that's why I'm not an NFL coach, because Seattle right now is 3-1 right now. So they have no reason to like switch it up anytime soon.
That is very, very true and annoying, to say the least. Well, that wraps it up for today's trade episode. Let us know. Did you like the new style? Did you like a little bit buy, sell, hold? Next week, we might mix in a mailbox. So be watching the Instagram. You can follow the FFLs over there, because if we'll post it on our story where you could drop trades that you want us to go through over there. For sure. If you want to follow us on the X, I'm at CamelFFF. Tyler's at Tyler_Plath. Tweet your trades at us over there. Drop them in the YouTube comments down below. FFL is on the X for the fellas page to get all fellas worthy updates. Make sure you join the Discord, which you can find in the link of this video below. Fantasy Football Fellas on Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube, and Fantasy Football Fellas Shorts if you want the short form on YouTube. Well, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications, because we'll be back tomorrow with starts and sits, but we will see you later. Deuces.